Alright, this is Chat UTD and a catch up on what is becoming an increasingly frustrating and potentially very damaging summer for Manchester United, in particular for Ruben Amorim. Being a United fan in the summer is a painful experience. Being a United fan during the season is a painful experience for different reasons. But in the summer, it's much the same as what we've gone through before. Only been able to work on one deal at a time, taking a painfully long time to do anything while those around you are slick and getting 3, 4, 5 players through the door in the time it takes you to get one. Rumour, counter rumour, fans getting overexcited about nothing, not being able to shift players. And this summer we're even more hamstrung because the absolute mismanagement, neglect and incompetence of the Glazers over 20 years is now royally biting us in the arse. So you've got that to contend with, the legacy damage of that to contend with as well now. We have to sell before we can buy. And it all interlinks. And I always say I bring everything back to the Glazers, and absolutely I will continue to do that. And this is absolutely linked to the Glazers. Because we're in a position now where we need to sell players to be able to buy anybody. And we can't sell those players, and the reason we can't sell those players is because they're on watertight contracts on big money that they're not worth. And the reason they've got those contracts is because the Glazers and people that they employed have made the decision to give those players those contracts when not any other club in the world would have done that. So you've got all of that on top of the fact we're ridiculously slow, the fact we can't work on more than one deal at a time, etc. So the state of play is we've got Cunha through the door. We haven't sold anybody. Mbeumo, more than a month ago, said he only wanted to join Manchester United. So we have a player who doesn't want to join anybody else, and a club that's quite reasonable, I would say, in Brentford, that are willing to do a deal. Good people in the game, good sort of sources were saying, look, this is going to get done. There's no panic here, this is a done deal. And more than a month later, it still hasn't been done. Now, other clubs don't operate like this. This is not like a football-wide issue. This is a Manchester United issue. Chelsea don't do this. City don't do it. Arsenal don't do it. Liverpool don't do it. Why has it taken a month? We've not even done it yet. It's going to be more than a month to tap in an open goal. We heard that the new financial year, July the 1st, was going to potentially be a watershed moment with the signings because, you know, we've got a bit more wriggle room financially. All right, it's only the 6th of July today, but nothing shifted. So we can't get the Mbeumo deal over the line by the look of it at the moment. And whilst that's going on, nothing else is happening or has happened. Beyond that, even if we got that deal done, the understanding, the general consensus is that we would then need to move players on to be able to free up finances for any other deals that we need to do. I believe we desperately need a striker. I think we very much need a goalkeeper, and I'd like us to have a right wing back and at least one midfield player. But we're going to have to forego the right wing back and the midfield player because we ain't got the finances to do it, which in and of itself is a massive problem, but that's just the way it is. But we, at the very, very, very least, we need a striker. And I think keeping Onana is a big mistake, and I think we need to replace him as well. But again, if we can't raise funds, we're not going to be able to do it. But so essentially we need to raise funds for at least a striker. How are we going to do that? I said in a recent video, Marcus Rashford, to some, is worth 35 million pounds, but he's not worth 300 grand a week. And he has it in his head that he can be picky about where he goes to because he's got ideas above his station. And that is proving problematic in terms of shifting him on. So it looks like probably if he was going to go, it's going to have to be another loan deal. We can't have him in the squad because that ship has sailed. So He isn't going to be with us, so it'll probably be another loan deal. But we don't then get money, obviously, for that in terms of being able to get some money to buy players. Jadon Sancho, another one that I mentioned in a previous video. For me, he's not worth shit, but there seems to be people that are willing to pay 20-25 million quid for him. But again, they're not going to pay him stupid wages because he's a journeyman football player. He's bang average. But United gave him elite wages. And he has, it doesn't strike me as being the most humble of fellas, he has, again, ideas above his station, thinking he can just keep demanding those types of wages because United set that precedent, and he probably lives in a complete fantasy world of delusion where people keep tapping him on the back and telling him how great he is. Because that's the type of people that footballers surround themselves with these days. So, again, he's not going to go, is he? We're not going to be able to ship him out. He runs out of contract next year. It's likely he'll just run it down and go on loan again, and we'll have to let him go for nothing. But where's the tipping point with Rashford then? Because next year he's got another 2 or 3 years left on his contract. Let's say he goes out on loan again this year. Next year, what do we do? We'll be in this position again. There's got to be a tipping point where he eventually goes, well, actually, I can't be picky about the club that I join because no one seems to want me, and I'm going to have to reduce my wages. But that's not happening this summer by the look of it. So on Friday, apparently Amorim has said, look, I don't want Malacia, Anthony, Sancho, Garnacho and Rashford. He said that he doesn't want those 5 players. I saw an article from Laurie Whitwell saying that Amorim had expected that those 5 players would have been moved on by now before they go back to pre-season training tomorrow on the 7th of July, and obviously they're not. But I've just covered Sancho and Rashford. Nothing seems to be happening with Garnacho. I think we will end up selling him, and he's the most sellable, but I'm not sure what we'll get for him. So that's going to free up some money for a striker. But when's that going to happen? We have to sell before we can buy. Malacia, I mean, I haven't got nothing against Malacia, but he's not good enough, and we're going to get hardly anything for him, I would have thought. And Anthony, I've not got a massive problem with Anthony. I never have had, because I think he's always carried himself in an all right way. I think he seems to he tries to put a shift in. You know, he's I don't think you can ever question his attitude in a United shirt. I think he's wanted it to work, but it's been obviously a pretty much an unmitigated disaster for him. But he's a good player, and I think genuinely probably wants to go and play football somewhere. But the issue I've heard with the Anthony deal is that we've still not finished paying off the fee to Ajax. So I don't know how that then works in terms of if we sold him, even or if we're allowed to sell him whilst that's still hanging over our head. So again, is that going to be another loan? And again, we gave him massive wages. Who's going to pay those wages? Who can afford it? The type of clubs that want Anthony, like Real Betis, no disrespect, are not going to be paying someone $250 a week, 250 grand a week. They're not. But that's the standard he's at. I've not even mentioned because I've not mentioned it because they're not been put in the same category by Amorim. But I've not mentioned Luke Shaw, Mason Mount. They're on 200 grand a week apiece. So you've got Mason Mount, Luke Shaw, Anthony, Rashford, Sancho, 5 players there that probably totaled up are on, I'd say getting on for 1.5 million a week altogether. This is what I'm going to come back to. It's legacy damage. In 2 ways. 1, these players are on these contracts and we can't get rid of them, and that's the Glazers' fault. But 2, we have to sell to buy, and we're in this position in the first place to sell. We have to sell to buy again because of the Glazers' mismanagement and incompetence and neglect over a period of time. United are a club that should never be in a position where they need to sell to buy, but we are. We finished 15th last season, and I struggle to articulate how ridiculous that is for a club the size of Manchester United to finish 15th in the Premier League. And the last thing you need as a response to that in a transfer window is to do nothing or to do very little. And I don't think they're doing nothing on purpose, by the way. I'm sure they're not saying, we don't need to do anything, everything's fine. I'm not saying that. But it's very different to, there were summers with Ferguson where we hadn't had a great season, but what that looked like was we finished second or third. And you'd be like, right, he's only brought in Van der Sar and Ji-sung Park, or he's only brought in Michael Carrick in one particular summer. And you're thinking, that's not enough. But we're talking about a team that's settled, that is it's got winners in it, that doesn't need an awful lot, even though the season wasn't that good. This is a team that's just finished 15th in the Premier League. On merit as well, by the way. We weren't unlucky to finish 15th. I think we were probably a touch lucky to finish 15th. So you have to tip it upside down. It has to be a complete reset. The owners of this club are not capable of doing that, given the circumstances that they're in, because one of the reasons being that the legacy damage that's been done by the Glazers has meant it's very difficult to do that. But I don't care whether it's difficult. You're there to do your job. You're there to solve these problems. And the only thing I can see that Ineos have done differently is make cuts on the working people at the club. They're not able to do it with the big boys, with the big guns. They can't do that. You have to be able to do that. If you're going to get in bed with the Glazers and try and make good something that is so bad because of them, then you're going to have to be a genius. You're going to have to be pretty much a miracle worker, and they're not. Which comes back to what I always say: they shouldn't have done the deal in the first place. United are absolutely screwed as a club, and it brings me to Amorim. What chance does he have? What chance does he have? You've got people at the back end of last season. Daniel Sturridge, who used to play for Liverpool, saying he struggled in his first few months at the Sporting Lisbon, and then had a summer where he got 8 or 9 players in. This summer's massive for United. He's going to be fine because he's going to get his players in. He's going to get what he needs. He's going to ship out the ones he doesn't want. What drugs are you on, Daniel? Have you introduced yourself to Manchester United recently? Do you know the landscape of this club? We're not getting 8 players in. We're not shifting 9 or 10 that probably need to go. It hasn't happened for... It never happened. Never happened under the Glazers. We're not capable of doing that. So Amorim had such a brilliant time at Sporting Lisbon after suffering in his first few months, because they gave him what he needed in a much less competitive league, from a much stronger starting position. Our starting position is 15th. He's playing a brand new system that the team is not ready to play. And we've given him nothing. Not to mention the fact that there's people there that will sabotage what we want to happen, who need to leave. So how is he supposed to improve this? When they come back tomorrow, in fairness, it's not been an international tournament this year, so he's got a bit longer than he normally would have with players. So even if we don't get any signings early-ish, it's not early now, is it? It's midway through the window, really. But you know what I mean. Even if we don't get any signings in the next couple of weeks, let's put it that way, he is going to have longer with the players that he's got, which will make some difference because he can hopefully transfer some of his ideas onto the team. But then, really, this team isn't the one he wants to be putting those ideas to. He wants new players and he wants other players to leave. So he needs a summer with the team that he actually wants from a relatively early stage. There's no way we can give him that. At the very best, if we get some more players in, it's going to be in about a month's time. And the season starts. It's always tomorrow with United. It's always, then next summer becomes important. Well, next summer there's a World Cup. and players will be coming back in dribs and drabs, and it'll be a really condensed pre-season. So pre-season at United is a complete waste of time. It could be a transformative period if you get players in for your manager and you give him the full amount of time that he needs in the summer without a tournament. It could be fantastic. But the way that United are doing it, and I don't doubt, as I said before, that part of that is the legacy damage caused by the Glazers, and Ineos are trying to pick up the pieces. But if you do it the way United do it, nonetheless, it is pretty much a complete waste of time. So I don't know. It's such a frustrating time, I think, to be a United fan in the summer months. So we hear today that Gyökeres is probably going to go to Arsenal. He was never going to come to United. That was never happening. For all the reasons I've alluded to today, we haven't got enough money to get him. We take too long to sell players to raise funds. I don't feel like I really completed that conversation actually earlier on. I suppose the completion of that conversation about selling players to get money in is the only player we can sell for any decent amount of money is Garnacho, which will probably get about 40 or 50 million for him, which probably frees up about 60 or 70 because it's clear profit, and that's the way it works with PSR, whatever it's called. But when are we going to get rid of him so that then we can get a striker in? I don't know. But anyway, Gyökeres is not going to be that guy because it looks like he's going to Arsenal. So Amorim wanted Gyökeres because obviously he was from Sporting Lisbon. He wanted Kenda, who was a right wing back. He's gone to Chelsea again because he hasn't got any money. So apparently Delap was first choice. I'm not having that, but apparently he was. Then I'd say Gyökeres. Then who after that? Watkins, people talk about. Nah, I don't know. Age profile isn't right. He'll be 30 this season. I'm not getting into it. I just don't think he's particularly great. He's better than what we've got, but we're not going to sign Ollie Watkins. It's not an Ineos type signing. There's no sell on value. It's not going to happen. And then Calvert-Lewin. I mean, remember a few seasons ago when people mentioned Arnautovic, and there was absolute outcry amongst the fan base, mainly because of, I think, things he'd done or said. I think his conduct was quite questionable. Million times better player than Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me if they got him. But this is where we are. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free. Everton don't want him. Who else then? Who else? Mateta from Crystal Palace. I mean, no disrespect, but come on. Do we want to go from 15th to 10th? If that's the case, fine. Or do we want to go from 15th to 6th or 7th? Then you're going to need a much better player than that. So it's all much of the same, and it's very, very frustrating. On just a brief sombre note, Jota from Liverpool passed away last week in a car crash with his brother. This is where football rivalry means very little. It's not about the rivalry between United and Liverpool. It's a human being making his way in the game. 28 years old, young children, just got married. Absolutely horrific, and just I think it shows how precarious and precious life is, and puts into perspective football, because I saw a picture of his mum who's lost two sons in one accident, and understandably she just looked utterly broken, like pain that you can't even begin to comprehend unless you've been through something like that, I guess. So nothing to do with United, but I think it would be remiss of me not to mention it. So of course thoughts go to him, his family, and people that know him and people that are close to him. Glazer's out.